Shabbat Shalom. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vayed. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vayed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bakar Banu Mekol Ha'amim Vanatan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen. Bless the Lord, the Blessed One. Blessed is the Lord, the Blessed One, for all eternity. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has chosen us from all peoples and given us his Torah. Blessed are you, O Lord, giver of the Torah. Amen. This week's Parashahs, Parashah 42 and 43, beginning in Numbers 30.
Then Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes of the people of Israel. He said, "Here is what Adonai has ordered. When a man makes a vow to Adonai or formally obligates himself by swearing an oath, he is not to break his word, but is to do everything he said he would do. When a woman makes a vow to Adonai, formally obligating herself, while she is a minor living in her father's house, then, if her father has heard what she vowed or obligated herself to do and holds his peace, then all her vows remain binding. Every obligation she has bound herself to will stand. But if on the day her father hears it, he expresses his disapproval, then none of her vows or obligations she has bound herself to will stand. And Adonai will forgive her because her father expresses his disapproval. If having made vows or rashly committed herself to an obligation, she gets married and her husband hears but holds his peace with her on the day that he learns of it, then her vows and obligation she has bound herself to will stand. But if her husband expresses his disapproval on the day he hears it, he will void the vow which is on her and the obligation to which she has bound herself, and Adonai will forgive her. The vow of a widow, however, or of a divorcee, including everything to which she has obligated herself, will stand against her. If a woman vowed in her husband's house or obligated herself with an oath, and her husband heard it but held his peace with her and did not express disapproval, then all her vows and obligations will stand. But if her husband makes them null and void on the day he hears them, then whatever she said, vows or binding obligation, will not stand. Her husband has voided them, and Adonai will forgive her. Her husband may let every vow and every binding obligation stand, or he may void it. But if her husband entirely holds his peace with her day after day, then he confirms all her vows and obligations. He must let them stand, because he held his peace with her on the day he heard them. If he makes them null and void after he has heard them, then he will bear the consequent guilt. These are the laws which Adonai ordered Moshe between a man and his wife, and between a father and his daughter, if she is a minor living in her father's household. Adonai said to Moshe, on behalf of the people of Israel, take vengeance on the Midianites. After that, you will be gathered to your people. Moshe said to the people, equip men from among yourself for war. They are to go and fight Midian in order to carry out Adonai's vengeance on Midian. You are to send to the war 1,000 men from every one of the Israel's tribes. So out of the thousands of people of Israel, 1,000 armed men from each tribe, 12,000 altogether, were mustered for war. Moshe sent them, 1,000 from each tribe, to war. He sent them and Pinchas, the son of Eleazar the Kohen, to the war, with the holy utensils and trumpets for sounding the alarm in his care. They fought against Midian as Adonai had ordered Moshe, and killed every male. They killed the kings of Midian along with the others who were slain: Evi, Rechem, Tizur, Hur, Repha, and the 5 kings of Midian. They also killed Bilam, the son of Beor, with the sword. The people of Israel took captive the women of Midian and their little ones, and they took as booty all the cattle, flocks, and other goods. They set fire to all their cities and the areas where they lived, and all their camps. They took all the booty, all the people and animals they had captured, and brought the captives, booty, and spoil to Moshe, Eleazar, the Kohen, and the community of Israel in the camp on the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho. Moshe, Eleazar, the Kohen, and all the community leaders went to meet them outside the camp. But Moshe was angry with the army officers, the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds coming in from the battlefield. Moshe asked them, you let the women live? Why, these are the ones who, because of Bilam's advice, caused the people of Israel to rebel, breaking faith with Adonai in the Peor incident, so that the plague broke out among Adonai's community. Now kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman who has never slept with a man. But the young girls who have never slept with a man, keep alive for yourselves. Pitch your tents outside the camp for 7 days. Whoever has killed a person or touched the corpse of someone slain, purify yourself on the 3rd and the 7th day, you and your captives. Also purify every garment, whether of skin or goat's hair, and everything made of wood. Eleazar the Kohen said to the soldiers who had gone to the front, this is the regulation from the Torah which Adonai has ordered Moshe. Even though gold, silver, brass, iron, tin, and lead can all withstand fire, so that you are indeed to purify everything made of these materials by having them pass through fire. Nevertheless, they must also be purified with the water for purification. Everything that can't withstand fire, you are to have go through the water. On the 7th day, you are to wash your clothes, and you will be clean. After that, you may enter the camp. Adonai said to Moshe, take all the booty, both people and animals, you, Eleazar, the Kohen, and the leaders of the clans in the community, and divide the booty into 2 parts, half for the experienced soldiers who went out to battle, and half for the rest of the community. From the portion of the soldiers who went out to battle, levy a tax for Adonai, consisting of 1/500th of the persons, cattle, donkeys, and sheep. Take it from their half and give it to Eleazar the Kohen as a portion set apart for Adonai. From the half that goes to the people of Israel, you are to take 1/50th of the persons and of the cattle, donkeys, and sheep, that is, of all the livestock, and give them to the Levites, taking care of the tabernacle of Adonai. Moshe and Eleazar the Kohen did as Adonai had ordered Moshe. The booty over and above the portion which the soldiers took came to 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 persons in all, consisting of the women who had never slept with a man. The half which was the portion of the soldiers who went out to fight numbered 337,500 sheep, of which Adonai's tribute was 675. 36,000 cattle, of which Adonai's tribute was 72. 30,500 donkeys, of which Adonai's tribute was 61. And 16,000 persons, from whom Adonai's tribute was 32 persons. Moshe gave the tribute set apart for Adonai to Eleazar the Kohen, as Adonai had ordered Moshe. From the half that went to people of Israel, which Moshe separated from that of the men who had gone to fight. Now the community's half consisted of 337,500 sheep, 36,000 cattle, 30,500 donkeys, and 16,000 persons. From the people of Israel's half, Moshe took 1/50 of the persons and animals and gave them to the Levian, taking care of the tabernacle of Adonai, as Adonai had ordered Moshe. The officers in charge of the 1,000 who fought, the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds, approached Moshe and said to him, "Your servants have counted all the soldiers under our command, and not one of us is missing. We have brought an offering for Adonai, what every man has obtained in the way of gold, silver, armlets, bracelets, signet rings, earrings, and belts, to make atonement for ourselves before Adonai." Moshe and Eleazar the Kohen accepted their gold and the jewelry. All the gold in this gift, which the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds set apart for Adonai, weighed 420 pounds. For the soldiers had taken booty, every man for himself. Moshe and Eleazar the Kohen took the gold from the commanders of thousands and of hundreds and brought it into the tent of meeting as a reminder for the people of Israel before Adonai. The descendants of Reuben and the descendants of Gad had vast quantities of livestock. When they saw that the land of Jazer and the land of Gilead were good for livestock, the descendants of Gad and of Reuben came and spoke to Moshe, Eleazar the Kohen, and the community leaders. They said, Tarat, Divon, Jazer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Elilav, Savam, Nevo, and Bimon, the country that Adonai conquered before the community of Israel, is livestock country, and your servants have livestock. If you regard us favorably, they went on, let this land be given to your servants as their possession, and don't have us cross the Jordan. Moshe answered the descendants of Gad and of Reuben, you are brothers to go to war. Are your brothers to go to war while you stay here? Besides, why are you trying to discourage the people of Israel from crossing into the land Adonai gave them? This is what your fathers did when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to see the land. For when they went up to the Eshcol Valley and saw the land, they disheartened the people of Israel so that they wouldn't enter the land Adonai had given them. Adonai's anger blazed up on that day, and he swore, none of the people aged 20 or more who came out of Egypt will see the land I swore to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, because they haven't followed me unreservedly, except Caleb, the son of Euphani, and the Kenazzi, and Yehoshua, the son of Nun, because they have followed Adonai unreservedly. Thus Adonai's anger blazed against Israel, so that he made them wander here and there in the desert 40 years, until all the generation that had done evil in the sight of Adonai had died out. Now you, another brood of sinners, have arisen in your father's place to increase still more the fierce anger of Adonai towards Israel. For if you turn away from him, he will leave them in the desert again, and thus you will cause the destruction of all these people. But they came up to him and said, Here, we will build enclosures for our livestock and cities for our little ones, but we ourselves will be armed and ready for action to march at the head of the people of Israel until we have brought them to their place. Our little ones will stay in the fortified cities here because of the people now living in the land. However, we will not return to our own homes until every man in Israel has taken possession of his land for inheritance. We will not have an inheritance with them on the other side of the Jordan, westward, because our inheritance has fallen to us on this side of the Jordan, eastward. Moshe said to them, If you will do this, if you will arm yourselves to go before Adonai to war, and if every one of your soldiers will cross the Jordan before Adonai until he has driven out his enemies ahead of him, and if the land has been conquered to possess before Adonai. But if you will not do this, then you will have sinned against Adonai. And you must understand that your sin will find you out. Build cities for your little ones and enclosures for your sheep. Then do what you have said you would do. The descendants of Gad and the descendants of Reuben said to Moshe, Your servants will do as my Lord orders. Our little ones, wives, flocks, and all our livestock will be there in the cities of Gilead. But your servants will cross over, every man armed for war, before Adonai to do battle, as my Lord says. So Moshe gave orders concerning them to Eleazar the Kohen, Yehoshua the son of Nun, and the clan leaders of the tribes of the people of Israel. Moshe said to them, If the descendants of Gad and of Reuben cross over the Jordan with you, every man armed for battle before Adonai, and if the land is conquered before you, then you are to give them the land of Gilead, there as their possession. But if they do not cross with you armed, they are to possess the land along with you in Canaan. The descendants of Gad and of Reuben answered, We will do as Adonai has said to your servants. We will cross into the land of Canaan, armed before Adonai, and the land we will possess for an inheritance will be on this side of the Jordan. So Moshe gave the descendants of Gad and Reuben, and also to the half-tribe of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, the kingdom of Shecron, king of the Amori, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, the country and its cities within its borders, along with their surrounding towns. The descendants of Gad built Devan, Tarot, Aroer, Atarat Shaphan, Yazer, Yogbiha, Bet Nimrah, and Bet Haran, fortified cities, and also enclosures for sheep. The descendants of Reuben built Heshbon, Eliath, Kiryatayim, Nevo, Baalmon, and Sema. They renamed the cities they built. The descendants of Machir, the son of Manasseh, went to Gilead and conquered it, dispossessing the Amori who were there. Moshe gave Gilead to Machir, the son of Manasseh, and he lived in it. Yachir, the son of Manasseh, went and captured its villages and called them Havot Yair. Novash went and captured Kanat with its villages and named it Novash after himself.
Parashah 43. These are the stages in the journey of the people of Israel as they left the land of Egypt, divided into groups under the leadership of Moshe and Aaron. Moshe recorded each of the stages of their journey by order of Adonai. Here are the starting points of each stage. They began their journey from Ramses in the first month. On the 15th day of the first month, the morning after the Pesach, the people of Israel left proudly in view of all the Egyptians. while the Egyptians were burying those among them whom Adonai had killed, all their firstborn. Adonai had also executed judgment on their gods. The people of Israel moved on from Ramses and camped at Sukkot. They moved on from Sukkot and camped at Etam by the edge of the desert. They moved on from Etam and turned back to Pi Harod in front of Baal Zevan and camped before Migdal. They moved on from Panai Hakarot, passed through the sea to the desert, continued 3 days' journey into the Etam desert, and camped at Marah. They moved on from Marah and came to Elim. In Elim were 12 springs and 70 palm trees, so they camped there. They moved on from Elim and camped by the Sea of Suf. They moved on from the Sea of Suf and camped in the Sin desert. They moved on from the Sin desert and camped at Dafka. They moved on from Dafka and camped at Alush. They moved on from Alush and camped at Rephidim, where there was no water for the people to drink. They moved on from Rephidim and camped in the Sinai desert. They moved on from the Sinai desert and camped at Karot HaTavav. They moved on from Kavarot HaTavav and camped in Hatzerot. They moved on from Hatzerot and camped at Ritmah. They moved on from Ritmah and camped at Ramon Peretz. They moved on from Ramon Peretz and camped at Livnah. They moved on from Livnah and camped at Rissa. They moved on from Rissa and camped at Keilah. They moved on from Keilah and camped at Mount Shafir. They moved on from Mount Shafir and camped at Harada. They moved on from Harada and camped at Mechelot. They moved on from Mechelot and camped at Takat. They moved on from Takat and camped at Tarak. They moved on from Tarak and camped at Mitkah. They moved on from Mitkah and camped at Hashemon. They moved on from Hashemon and camped at Moserot. They moved on from Moserot and camped at Bnei Yakam. They moved on from Bnei Yakam and camped at Hor HaGedid. They moved on from Hor HaGedid and camped at Yatova. They moved on from Yatobata and camped at Avarona. They moved on from Avarona and camped at Etzion Gebir. They moved on from Etzion Gebir and camped in the Zin desert, that is Kadesh. They moved on from Kadesh and camped at Mount Hor at the border of the land of Edom. At Adonai's order, Aharon the Kohen went up on Mount Hor, and he died there on the first day of the 5th month of the 40th year after the people of Israel had left the land of Egypt. Aharon was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. The Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the Negev, in the land of Canaan, had heard the people of Israel were coming. So they moved on from Mount Hor and camped at Zalmanoah. They moved on from Zalmanoah and camped at Panon. They moved on from Panon and camped at Ovat. They moved on from Ovat and camped at Yehavarim by the border of Moab. They moved on from Ayaim and camped at Devan Gad. They moved on from Devan Gad and camped at Alman Devalatayim. They moved on from Alman Devalatayim and camped in the Abarim range in front of Nevo. They moved on from the Abarim range and camped in the plains of Moab by the Yarden, across from Jericho. Their camp by the Yarden extended from Bet Ha-Yeshimot all the way to Avil Hashatim in the plains of Moab. Adonai spoke to Moshe in the plains of Moab by the Yarden, across from Jericho. He said to tell the people of Israel, when you cross the Yarden into the land of Canaan, you are to expel all the people living in the land from in front of you. Destroy all their stone figures, destroy all their metal statues, and demolish all their high places. Drive out the inhabitants of the land and live in it, for I have given the land to you to possess. You will inherit the land by lot according to your families. You are to give more land to the larger families and less to the smaller ones. Wherever the lot falls to any particular person, that will be his property. You will inherit according to the tribes of your ancestors. But if you don't drive out the inhabitants of the land from in front of you, then those you allow to remain will become like thorns in your eyes and stings in your side. They will harass you in the land where you are living. And in this event, I will do to you what I intended to do to them. Adonai said to Moshe to give this order to the people of Israel. When you enter in the land of Canaan, it will become your land to pass on as inheritance. The land of Canaan is defined by these borders. Your southern portion will extend from the Zin Desert, close to the border of Edom. The eastern terminus of your southern border is at the end of the Dead Sea. From there, your border turns south, goes south of the Akrabim ascent and passes on to Zin. From there, it goes south of the Kadesh Barnea onto Hatzar Adar and onto Atzamon. Then the border turns and goes from Atzamon to the Valley of Egypt and along it to the sea. Your western border will be the Great Sea. Your northern border will be as follows. From the Great Sea, mark a line to Mount Hor, and from Mount Hor, mark a line to the entrance of Hamath. The border goes out to Zedad, then the border goes to Zevron, and finally to Hatzar Enan. This is your northern border. For the eastern border, mark your line from Hatzar Enan to Shephan. Then the border goes from Shephan to Rivlah on the east side of the Yin, then down till it hits the slope east of Lake Kinneret. From there it goes down to the Yarden River till it flows into the Dead Sea. These will be the borders of your land. Moshe gave this order to the people of Israel. This is the land in which you will receive inheritance by lot, which Adonai has ordered to give to the 9 tribes and the half-tribe. The tribes of the descendants of Reuben have already received their land for inheritance according to their clans, and so have the descendants of Gad and the half-tribe of Manasseh. These 2.5 tribes have received their inheritance on this side of the Yarden, across from Jericho, and eastwards towards the sunrise. Adonai said to Moshe, "These are the name of the men who will take possession of the land for you: Eleazar the Kohen, Yeshua the son of Nun. Also appoint 1 leader from each tribe to take possession of the land. The names of these men are: from the tribe of Yehuda, Caleb the son of Yefunah; from the tribe of the descendants of Shimon, Shamuel the son of Ammihud; from the tribes of Benjamin, Elidad the son of Kislan; from the tribes of the descendant of Dan, a leader, Buki the son of Yogli; from the descendants of Yosef; from the tribe of the descendants of Manasseh, a leader, Haniel the son of Ephod; from the tribe of the descendants of Ephraim, a leader, Kemuel the son of Shiftan; from the tribe of the descendants of Zuvlan, a leader, Elzaphan the son of Parnaka; from the tribe of the descendants of Yisachar, a leader, Patil the son of Azan; from the tribe of the descendants of Asher, a leader, Akahud the son of Shlomi; and from the tribe of the descendants of Naphtali, a leader, Padalho the son of Ammihud. These are the ones whom Adonai ordered to divide the inheritance among the people of Israel in the land of Canaan. In the plains of Moab by the Yarden, across from Jericho, Adonai said to Moshe, "Order the people of Israel to give to the Leviim cities to live from the heritage they will possess, and you are also to give to the Leviim some of the open land surrounding the cities. They are to have the cities to live in, while their open land will be for their livestock, for growing crops, and for all their animals. The open land around the cities you give to the Leviim is to commence at a line drawn around the city wall, 1,500 feet outside it, and to extend outward from there. Measure 3,000 feet outward from the city wall to the east, south, west, and north, with the city in the center. The space will be the 1,500-foot line, and the 3,000-foot line will be their open land around the cities. The cities you give to the Leviim are to be the 6 cities of refuge to which you permit the person who kills someone to flee to, plus an additional 42 cities. Thus you will give the Leviim 48 cities with their surrounding open land. As to the cities you will give from those who the people of Israel possess, from the many you will take many, and from the few you will take few. Each tribe will contribute from its cities to the Leviim in accordance with the size of its inheritance." Adonai said to Moshe, "Tell the people of Israel, when you cross the Yarden into the land of Canaan, you are to designate for yourself cities that will be cities of refuge for you, to which anyone who kills someone by mistake can flee. These cities are to be a refuge for you from the dead person's next of kin, who might otherwise avenge his kinsman's death by slaying the killer prior to his standing trial before the community. In regard to the cities you are to give, there are to be 6 cities of refuge for you. You are to give 3 cities east of the Yarden and 3 cities in the land of Canaan. They will be cities of refuge. These 6 cities will serve as refuge for the people of Israel, as well as for the foreigner and resident alien with them, so that anyone who kills someone by mistake may flee there. However, if he hits him with an iron implement and thus causes his death, he is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death. Or if he hits him with a stone in his hand big enough to kill someone and he dies, he is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death. Or if he hits him with a wood utensil in his hand capable of killing someone and he dies, he is a murderer. The murderer must be put to death. The next of kin avenger is to put the murderer to death himself. Upon meeting him, he is to put him to death. Likewise, if he shoves him out of hatred or intentionally throws something at him causing his death, or out of hostility strikes him with his hand so that he dies, then the one who struck him must be put to death. He is a murderer, and the next of kin avenger is to put the murderer to death upon meeting him. But suppose he shoves him suddenly, without hostility, or he throws something at him unintentionally or without seeing him. Being his enemy or seeking to harm him, he throws a stone big enough to cause death and the person dies. Then the community is to judge between the one who struck him and the next of kin avenger in accordance with these rules, and the community is to save the killer from the next of kin avenger. The community is to return him to the city of refuge to which he fled, and he is to live there until the Kohen Hagadol, who was anointed with the holy oil, dies. But if the killer ever goes beyond the limits of the city of refuge he fled to, and the next of kin avenger finds him outside the limits of his city of refuge, and the avenger kills the killer, he will not be guilty of the man's blood, because he must stay in his city of refuge until the death of the Kohen Hagadol. But after the death of the Kohen Hagadol, the killer may return to the land he owns. These things shall constitute your standard for judgments through all your generations wherever you live. If anyone kills someone, the murderer is to be put to death upon the testimony of witness. But the testimony of only one witness will not suffice to cause a person to be put to death. Also, you are not to accept a ransom in lieu of the life of a murderer condemned to death. Rather, he must be put to death. Likewise, you are not to accept for someone who has fled to his city of refuge a ransom that would allow him to return to his land before the death of the Kohen. In this way, you will not defile the land in which you are living. For blood defiles the land, and in this land no atonement can be made for the blood shed in it, except the blood of him who shed it. No, you are not to defile the land in which you live, in which I live, for I, Adonai, live among the people of Israel. The leaders of the clans of the family of the descendants of Gilad, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of the descendants of Joseph, approached and addressed Moshe and the leaders, the heads of the clans of the people of Israel. They said, Adonai ordered my Lord to give by lot to the land to be inherited by the people of Israel. And my Lord was ordered by Adonai to give the inheritance of our kinsman Zelophehad to his daughters. But if they get married to anyone belonging to another of the tribes of the people of Israel, then their inheritance will be taken away from the inheritance of our ancestors and be added to the inheritance of the tribe they will belong to. Thus it will be taken away from the sum total of our inheritance. And when the Yovel of the people of Israel comes, their inheritance will be added to the land possessed by the tribe they will then belong to and be subtracted from the inheritance belonging to the tribe of our ancestors. Moshe gave this order to the people of Israel in keeping with the word of Adonai. The tribe of the descendants of Joseph is right in what it says. Here's what Adonai ordered concerning the daughters of Zelophehad. Let them be married to whomever they think best, but they must marry only into a family from their father's tribe. In this way, no inheritance of the people of Israel will move from one tribe to another, for each of the people of Israel is to hold on to the land for inheritance belonging to his father's tribe. Every daughter who possesses an inheritance in any tribe of the people of Israel is to become the wife of someone from the family of her father's tribe, so that every one of the people of Israel will stay in possession of his ancestors' inheritance. Thus, no inheritance will move from one tribe to another, for each of the tribes of the people of Israel will hold on to its own inheritance. The daughters of Zelophehad did as Adonai had ordered Moshe. Malach, Zerzah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Noah all got married to sons of their father's brothers. They were married into the families of the descendants of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, and their inheritance remained in the tribe of their father's family. These are the mitzvot and rulings which Adonai gave through Moshe to the people of Israel in the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho.
By the grace and mercy of God, we say, Chazak, Chazak, Benit Chazak. Be strong, and be strengthened. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chaya olam nata batuchenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten ha-Torah. Amen. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth and has planted eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, O Lord, giver of the Torah. V'zot ha-Torah asher se Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. And this is the Torah that Moses placed before the children of Israel at the command of the Lord through Moses' hand. Amen.